my beautiful sweet friends, how you doing? Today is me, Sharita Jones, checking back in with another video. Hey guys, it's time for another episode of It's Hard Out Here for a Temp. Sing it with me. You know it's hard out here for a temp when you're trying to get this money for the rent. You know it's hard out here for a temp when you're trying to get this money for the rent. Guys, I'm sharing another story from my series, It's Hard Out Here for a Temp. This one's called The Temp Who Inherited a Mystery. I had just finished one assignment and was gearing up for a week off when the agency called. We've got something unique, the recruiter said. They always say that, like everything's special. It's a records management project for a local nonprofit. They need someone to come in and clean up and organize their donor database. Simple stuff, right? It's only a 2-week gig. This is what the recruiter was saying to me. Sure, I said yes, always willing to jump into the unknown. When I arrived at the nonprofit, I was greeted by an older woman named Helen. Helen introduced herself as the operations director. She handed me a key to a small windowless office tucked away in the back. It was way in the back, tucked away in a corner of the building. Helen said, "This is the donor records office." Helen was explaining this to me. "We haven't had anyone here since Betty retired last year." This is what Helen was saying. She said, "It's a little bit neglected." The moment I opened the door, guys, I knew neglected was an understatement. Neglected was an understatement. This office was, I'm telling you guys, this office was a time capsule of chaos. Filing cabinets were overflowing. Papers was everywhere. Sticky notes was plastered, guys, all over the surfaces, all over the box. Documents were stacked all the way high, like precariously high, all the way to the top. And then there was a dusty computer that sat on the desk and the screen was dark. Betty had her own system, Helen added. No one really understood it, but she always kept things running smoothly. "We're hoping you can make sense of it." This is what Helen was asking me, if I can make sense of what Betty was doing in this room. On my first day, I decided to start with the filing cabinets. I opened the top drawer and found rows of manila folders labeled in Betty's scrawling handwriting. Betty made some notes on these manila folders. Some labels were straightforward, and in the writing part of the folder said 2020 donors, fundraiser events, but the others were more cryptic. Some of them were labeled important, and then other folders were labeled do not touch. And my personal favorite, guys, is what one of these manila folders said, weird stuff. That was the name of one of those manila folders, was called weird stuff. Curiosity got the better of me, guys. I opened the weird stuff folder, okay? I wanted to see what was in there. Inside were photocopies of handwritten notes, receipts for donations and things that were made in cash, and half-completed crossword puzzle was in there. A half-completed crossword puzzle. And she had it in there marked weird stuff. This was going to be interesting is what I said. I said, oh my goodness, this is going to be interesting. So guys, by the time lunchtime had rolled around, I developed a rough plan. I would sort through everything, create like a digital database, and then categorize the documents into something usable. You know, simple enough, right? Something that could make sense to me as I, go through all of Betty's stuff. Not quite, guys, not quite. No, sir, no, ma'am, not quite. Guys, as I dug deeper, I discovered that Betty's system was a maze of contradictions. Some donor records were meticulously organized, while others were scribbled on the backs of napkins, guys, on the backs of napkins. There were entire years missing from the files, and some records seemed to have been intentionally hidden. The computer wasn't much help either. When I finally managed to log in after guessing the password, Betty Rocks, that was the password, guys, Betty Rocks, I found dozens of spreadsheets, all with names like Donors Final 2 and actual donors maybe. I wasn't sure exactly what the spreadsheets were, but I kept combing through trying to make sense of what Betty had left behind. On my third day, guys, I stumbled upon something strange. Tucked inside a dusty box labeled miscellaneous, I found a handwritten ledger listing cash donations from a decade ago. The amounts were large, much larger than I would have expected from a small nonprofit. I brought the ledger to Helen, hoping she could shed some light on what I had found. I was like, okay, maybe Helen knows what this is. Her face was pale, guys. When I walked up to Helen, I said, oh, so I'm giving this folder to Helen. Helen said, oh, that must be one of Betty's old ledgers, she said quickly. And then she just took the book from my hands. She just took the book quickly from my hands. Thank you for finding this. We've been meaning to archive it. Wink, 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 wink. They've been meaning to archive it, I'm sure. Laughing out loud. That's what I was saying, right? Trying not to what's going on? Like, she literally grabbed that folder from my hand so quickly. Her tone was polite, but something about the way she clutched that ledger from me made me suspicious. Wouldn't that make you suspicious? It made me suspicious. The next day I returned to the miscellaneous box, determined to dig deeper. I'm like, I was invested. I wanted to know what was going on. That's when I found a folder marked confidential. Inside were emails between Betty and a former board member, okay? They was discussing discrepancies in donation records. As they say, honey. The emails hinted at something shady, misallocated funds, missing receipts, but the trail abruptly ended. At this point, I felt like I was starring in a workplace thriller. Was this just a case of sloppy record keeping? Or was something more sinister going on, guys? I cued the music in my head like dun 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 dun. You know how you do when you're in those movies and you feel like you're starring in some kind of thriller? Oh. I was shaking my head, guys. I was shaking my head and cringing all at the same time. When you go to these temp assignments, you have no idea what you're walking into every single time. By the end of the week, guys, I had digitized most of the donor records, and I had created a detailed report highlighting gaps and inconsistencies. When I presented it all to Helen, she seemed impressed but nervous. Helen told me, "You've done an excellent job," she said. "You've done an excellent job avoiding my gaze." I'm staring at Helen, but Helen is doing all she could not to make eye contact with me at all. Helen was doing all she could not to make eye contact with me. She said, "We'll take it from here." Guys, usually when they say they'll take it from here, you have stumbled up on something, okay? You have stumbled up on something that you shouldn't have been stumbling up on, okay? You've done an excellent job too well. I couldn't shake that feeling that there was more to the story. But as a temp, my role was clear. Do the work, hand it off, and move on, okay? See no evil, hear no evil, you know, that kind of thing. You got to move on. You can't go too deep. They hired you for a job. You do it, you eat, you drink, you sing, you go home. On my last day, as I packed up my things, one of the other employees, a guy named Greg, stopped by my desk. Greg said, "Thanks so much for your help," he said, glancing around. He was looking around to make sure no one else was listening. I knew this was going to be good. Greg said, "By the way, you're not the first temp that they brought in for this project. I just wanted you to know that. The last one left after a week." This is what Greg said. I asked Greg why. I said, "Why?" Greg hesitated. Then Greg shrugged his shoulders. He said, "They found something they wasn't supposed to." This is what Greg was telling me. So I'm sitting there like, honey, clutching my pearls. He didn't elaborate, and I didn't press Greg. I didn't ask Greg anything additional, okay? I just prayed about it and gave it to God, okay? I gave it to God. I walked up out of there. Walking out of that office, I felt a strange mix of accomplishment and unease, guys. Like I said, as a temp, you never know what these temp agencies are sending you into. I had done my job. I organized the chaos. I built the database, but I couldn't shake that feeling that I had scratched the surface of a much larger mystery. You know what I'm saying? I was like, what in the world is going on up in this place? Being a temp means stepping into other people's messes, solving their problems, and then, guys, you're leaving before you get too involved. Thank God, right? God got me up out of that job. I was out. So whatever they doing over there, fix it, Jesus. Fix it right now, Lord. It's hard out here for a temp, especially when the jobs come with secrets. Shh, don't tell nobody. Keep that a secret, guys. Keep that on the hush. Keep that on the hush, y'all. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I appreciate you coming in to chime in and hear another episode of It's Hard Out Here for a Temp. Sing it with me. You know it's hard out here for a temp when you're trying to get this money for the rent. You know it's hard out here for a temp when you're trying to get this money for the rent. You know it's hard. It's hard out here for a temp. Hey, it's hard out here for a temp. It's hot out here for a temp. It's hot out here for a Temp. Clap, 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 clap. Hey, clap, 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 clap. Hey, hey, clap, 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 clap. Hey, clap, 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 clap. It's hard out here for a Temp. It's hard out here for a Temp. Thank y'all so much for liking, watching, commenting, and subscribing. I truly and sincerely appreciate you all so much. Love you lots, friends. And I'll see y'all in the next episode of It's Hard Out Here for a Temp. It's hard out here for a Temp. Bye, y'all. Love you.